just a quick plug, we are going to be doing, we do our 30 Minutes with AQB every month, and on July 16th we're going to be doing our next training session. It's going to be a collaborative session with our sales director, Richard Ropa, and we're going to talk about steps to grow your business and tools that have helped us grow our business internally. And a funny part about it is one of the big points in our next webinar is going to be how to get out of Excel, right? Because when you're using Excel, you are, it's one person in the document at a time, so it's very difficult to maintain a database that way. So our next webinar is going to be talking about getting out of Excel, but today we're going to be going over some basics in Excel. It's absolutely a necessary tool, especially when we're moving data from one source to another. AQB uses Excel on a daily basis when it comes to client cleanups, fixing item lists, correcting descriptions, fixing costs. We use it all the time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. We are going to be going through some of these are the basics in Excel that we're going to be going through today. Even if you are familiar with it, I would still stick in and hang in there and check these out, because there are little things that I think people do. Even me, I learn it all the time. There's little tricks that people learn that speed up the process when you're working in Excel, so hopefully you'll have at least one takeaway today, hopefully multiples, but at least one takeaway today on some tricks. So I'm going to open up Excel here. So the first thing when it comes to doing any data cleanup or mining data in Excel is always create a copy. So if you have the original source document, you want to create a copy so that you are working in a copy of the original source in case you need to go back. Okay. So I already did create a copy of this, but I have my Excel training, so I would go in and save this as Excel training 2 or something like that. So I always can go back to the original source document. So what I'm going to go through today is I'm going to give you some scenarios and then how we use Excel to fix those. Okay. So the first one we're going to go through is called text to columns. So when you're in Excel, you have this data tab up top here, and you have the text to columns button up top. So the reason why you may potentially want to use text to columns, and the reason I'm going to be using it today, is notice how in my items list here, this is my list of items that I would be importing into into QuickBooks, right? And using nails and then putting the colon in there makes it that nails is a header item, and the colon makes it so that the 02-125584 is a sub-item under nails. So what'll happen, what I've created here is, notice that nails colon 02, right? All of the ones that are nails are 02. All the ones that are screws are 04. And if I go down, all the ones that are wood are 06. And basically what that's telling me is we're putting in 06 equals wood already, and we don't need to have both of those. So I want to go in and correct that, right? We don't need to have the 06 and the wood in there also, because 06 is telling us that it's wood. So here's what we would do with that. So let me scroll back up to the top here. So first of all, again, just like I would copy the workbook every single time so that I make sure that I can go back to the source, I'm going to copy the column before I do anything because I want to be able to reference back to the original source. So first let me insert in some columns here. I'm going to insert in several. Okay. And then I'm going to copy this initial column, okay, and I'm going to rename the column header just so that I know. So we'll call this header first. So I highlight the column, and I'm going to use this text to column button to separate out nails from the 02 dash, etc. So let me show you what that looks like. So I hit text to column, and I'm going to use the delimited width, and we'll talk about fixed width in a second. So delimited, I say next, and what it's asking for here is it's saying what is the character that is telling me to separate it out. So You can use tab. If tab is in there, you can use a semicolon, comma, but I'm going to use an other, right, because I'm going to use a colon. And notice what it does down below is it's giving you a quick preview. So if I use colon, what's going to happen is it's going to separate out nails, screws, everything. So if I scroll down here, I'd be able to see the screws. Everything at the colon place, it's going to move into another cell, okay? So again, it gives me a quick review, and I say finish. So now I've separated out nails from screws, or I'm sorry, nails from the independent item name, and that way I can narrow it down and get rid of these O2s in the front. Okay, so here's the header, and here's the item, let's say. Now, to get rid of the O2s, I'm going to do text to columns again. So I highlight this one, right? And again, I would create a copy of it, but since it's so easy, I can just go back to this original one if I need to. So I highlight this column here, and I do, again, text to columns. So this time, I could go in and do delimited width and use a dash, but I'm going to do fixed width. All right? And now it tells me, okay, well, where do you want to fix it? So I'm going to put the line right here, because I know that all the way down it's an O2 dash. So because I'm wanting to replace the O2 dash and just leave me with the individual item numbers, I can go ahead and use that fixed line to do it. So let's go ahead and say next. Again, it gives me a quick review, and say finish. Right, so now you can see it did the item also. So header 2, and here's the individual item. Okay. So now that I've separated that out, I do, again, I want to make sure that you rename the columns just so you can keep track of. Usually I'd like to use things that tell me what these are so that I can understand if I ever go back and pull this Excel document up again, I can say, okay, what was this? How did I get here? All right. Okay, so another thing that has happened in this document here is that I have several times when I have duplicates in here. So nails is down here and screws are down here. So I want to check to see if there are any duplicates on my list. All right. So the way that I do that, I'm going to use an if-then statement. So the first thing I want to do is I want to sort my Excel document, right? So if I go to A to Z sort, and I can sort by item, or I can sort by this item over here, right? So the original item. So I'm going to go up to my data has headers because I want to make sure that it doesn't sort that top line item with everything I'm sorting. And I'm going to click on item here. So when I sort it, if you visually you can see here there's duplicate, here there's a duplicate, here duplicate, right? So I want to get rid of those duplicates on my list, okay? The reason that we want to do that is occasionally when you import into QuickBooks, the duplicates will show up on the list and it'll actually create two item names, which QuickBooks doesn't allow you to do, right? Two items with the exact same name. So we want to get rid of them on this list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an if-then statement. Okay. A lot of the functions in Excel, it's very easy. You can use this little FX up here. For the if-then, I actually don't. So I'm going to name this, so we'll call this original item since I didn't follow my own rules there. So I'm going to name this column extract duplicates. Okay. So first of all, what I do, so first I had to sort it, right? And this is just a simple workaround. First I had to sort it. And then once I sorted it, what it does is it puts the two right next to each other. So I could go through, highlight, oh, that's a duplicate, and delete them. But what I found a faster way to do this is I use the if-then. So I go equals if, okay, and then open parentheses tells Excel that it's a formula. And again, I could use this little, once I started my function, I could use this little insert function and it would help talk me through the function. But for this one, I'm going to show you how to just do it straight in the cell. So what I'm going to say is if this equals this number above, right? So if 125585 equals 125584, which is going to make it, an exact match, then I want it to say XXX in my cell. And then, so what it's telling me along the way down here is if D3 equals D2, then, so if the value is true, put this in. Now I have to put that in quotes, right? Because anytime you want it to actually post characters into the cell, you put it in quotes. So then what I'm going to say is, if it is, so a comma, then if it is false, what do I want to post? And I'm just going to make it blank. So I put in 2 quotes in there with nothing in between it. I could put in something like CC here so I know, but I'm just going to leave it blank for now. All right. So now I've put that function in this cell. So if I click back onto the cell, it's going to show me what I have there, but nothing shows up here because the 2 don't equal each other, right? And I said, if the 2 don't equal each other, don't put anything in this cell. So then I'm going to copy this function that I put in all the way down. So this is one of those little ones that people enjoy once they learn it. So when you're on a cell, right, in Excel, a box is called a cell. So when you're on any cell that you want to copy down, all the way down to the bottom, right, you can copy it, Control-C, highlight and paste. That takes a little bit of time. So what I do is I highlight the box, and there's this little box on the lower right-hand corner. I'm pointing at my screen that you guys can see. So this little box on the lower right-hand corner here, and if I double-click on it, it will actually copy down for me. Okay, it's one of those little tricks. All right, so now I've identified every time we have a duplicate, right, here. So I'm going to, again, I'm going to highlight this column, right, because right now, if I do a sort by the X's to get rid of them, what's going to happen is the X's are going to go away, right, because if I do a sort, then this 125592 is going to be next to the 125593 and not next to the original number. So what I have to do first is get rid of the formulas. So again, I'm going to highlight the column. I'm going to do a copy. And then I'm going to right-click and do a paste special. Okay? So I'm going to paste the values. So right now it has the formula in the cell, and I want to instead take the formula out, and what the values the formula returns are going to stay. So I say paste special values. So now when I look in my cells, there's nothing there, right? No formulas. The ones with X's are just X. Okay. So to get rid of those duplicates, I'm now going to sort the entire document, and I could filter this too, but I'm now going to do a sort for the entire document for the extract duplicates. And I'm going to go from Z to A so that they're at the top. So here it has pulled for me all of the duplicates in the system or in the document. So I'm going to get rid of those. Okay. And now going back in, if I do a sort again on the original item and back to A to Z, now there aren't any duplicates in here. Okay. So it's a quick way. I'm sure you guys can think of some ways that that would apply to you directly. So that was the if-then statements, and I apologize, I'm going quick because I have 3 more to get through and we have 15 minutes left. Okay, so the next document that I'm going to be looking at, okay, we're going to come back to this one eventually, but the next document that I'm looking at here is I'm looking at our item, right? So let's say we had on a different workbook, we had the item without the QuickBooks jargon, right, without the nails, :02. So here's the original item. I have the price in here and I have the description. So a real fast and easy one that I want to do is we have our price, we want our default cost in QuickBooks to come up with 50% of the price. Okay. So what I do is I highlight the cell that I want the cost to be, right? So this item, The sales price is $2. I want the cost to be 50%. So anytime you're doing a calculation in Excel, you just do a plus button, and then you can say plus this cell divided by 2, right? So if you use the plus button, it'll get you there. So now it's $1, and I'm going to use that little box on the side to copy this all the way down, all right? And it looks kind of messy, lots of unrounded numbers. So what I can do here is when I highlight this column, there's some quick keys on your home tab in Excel. One of them is the little comma here, so it'll bring the numbers down to just be 2 decimal places. The other one that we have is the dollar format, so I can switch it over to dollars right away just using that key. Of course, you can right-click on it and go to Format Cells, but it's just nice to know those little quick keys are up there. Okay. So again, now I have the cost in here, but it's a formula. So instead of the formula, I want to copy this column, paste special, paste my values, and now the values are in there. Okay. So these are not rounded down yet, so there's another function which maybe we'll go into next time to show you how to round numbers, so it only shows you 2 numbers when you highlight over the cell. Okay, so this is my favorite. I took an Excel class at St. Mary's in the Master's of Accounting program, and this one was not taught to me in my Excel class, but a client taught me this when we first moved to Austin. It's actually a client that's on a referral list with Salt Lick Barbecue, and the CFO there taught me this one, and I use it all the time now. It's amazing. So a lot of times when we're moving data from one system into another, the tables do not necessarily line up, right? So they have a table for the bill to address, they have a table for the customer name and phone number, and then they have a table for the ship to addresses. And all of them are connected by using this customer number that's in the system, but they're on 3 different spreadsheets. And when we import it into QuickBooks, we want to import in the entire customer list, which has the bill to, the ship to, the phone number, customer name, everything on one document, one table. Okay? So what I'm going to show you is a way to cross-reference from one table back to another worksheet. Okay. All right. So what I want to do here is, so first of all, I'm going to use this name, right, because this is the way 125584. This is what ties out to this list here. And so what I want to do is I want to tell me what header should be used with these items when it comes across, right? So I have the header column already in here, and I'll explain it. It's a little confusing until you see it. So this one I definitely use the formula button up top here, okay, the function button. So I'm going to click on the function button, and I'm going to use the VLOOKUP. All right. Now, if it doesn't show up on your list here, you can do a search, or you can go and, because it defaults to most recently used, you can go to all, and then you'd be able to scroll down and find it on your list here of functions. So VLOOKUP, all right. So the VLOOKUP value is what are you cross-referencing against? So I want to use this column here, okay. The table array is what are we cross-referencing to? So one thing to note here is when you're cross-referencing to, whatever you're referencing against has to be the first column that you're referencing against. So I want to be able to pull header if on this sheet it matches up to item. So that means my item has to come before my header, basically. So let me copy this column and insert the copy cell here. So now that the item is in the front, I can cross-reference to tell me anything that comes after that. So again, going in here, function, I have my VLOOKUP. I'm going to look up, I want this column to cross-reference over. Now my table array, what I do is I click my second worksheet, and I'm saying again, the first column that I highlight in my table array, I'm sorry, I didn't move to the next cell. The first column that I highlight in my table array area here has to be what I'm referencing back to the other tab. So I highlight this, and I'm going to highlight the header. Now I could go on and on and on, right? And I could cross-reference up to cell 5 if I wanted to, but right now we're just referencing to the second cell next to it. So notice too, when I move, right, I have my mouse button clicked down so that I can highlight these different cells here. Okay. One thing to note too is that number 5C shows up right there, 4C, so it's telling me how many columns I have highlighted, which can be important if you're cross-referencing several columns down. So it counts for you so you don't have to go back and count, which is nice. So here I'm saying table array is these two columns. The next one, the column index, is saying, okay, what column do you want to return, right? So what value do you want to return here? So I want to return column 2 from those two columns that I just highlighted. So when I was saying that it counts columns for you, if you go down 7 columns wide, it's going, you would put 7 in there if you wanted to return the 7th column. Then we say, is it true or false? We want an exact match, which is false. So I could type in false here, or 0 equals false in programming. So I'm just going to hit 0 and then enter to finish. So notice what it does now is it says, okay, 125584. When I go over to this sheet, 125584, the header associated with that on the same line is nails. So that's why it returns nails here. So again, using my little secret box here that copies everything down, I'm going to copy this formula all the way down. Again, notice that once I get down here to 122836, it says screws. So when I go over 128836, it says screws here. Okay. Now these were in alphabetical order, but even if they weren't in order, it would have worked as well. I should have mixed them up a little bit in here, but because I could have technically copied and pasted across. But so that's the way to use the VLOOKUP. All right. So now what I've done, right, my goal through all of this has been to get rid of the duplication of the O2 and the nails, the O4 and the screws, right? But I still need to put it back into the format to put it into QuickBooks, which is nails, 125584. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert a column here. I'm going to call it QB item name. Okay, so first of all, I want to get rid of the formula in this column. So I'm going to highlight it and do a copy, or Control C, and then paste special, paste values. Okay. And now I'm going to use concatenate to merge these two together. Okay. This is another one that I use the function in here just because concatenate is hard enough to say, let alone spell. So I can do the if. The concatenate's hard to get there. So I'm going to use that function button right there. I'm going to use concatenate here. And what this allows you to do, this function, is join several cells together. So once I choose it, it says to me, what is the first cell that you want in your string? So the first one I want is nails, right? Because I want that to be the header account. And then it goes to text too. So you're naturally you'd want to go, okay, I want nails and then I want name, right? However, in QuickBooks, again, to make it a sub-item, we need to have that colon in there. Otherwise, it would be nails 125584, all one word. So in this cell, I put in my quotes. I want to put a colon in between B2, which is the header, and in text 3, I'm going to say between B2 and A2. And then I say OK. So now what it does is it merges down, right? So that nails colon 12554 is the QB name that we're going to import in. All right, and again, copy down. It copies all that information down for me. and I'm ready to go ahead and import my data. All right, 4 minutes to spare. If anybody has any questions, make sure you can raise your hand and I can bring you on the line, or you can go ahead and type them in the question box. Again, this will be on our website probably within a week, so that if I went a little too fast trying to get through all these little tips here, you can go back and take a look at it and watch it all over again. Does anybody have questions? There's been a couple questions in here, but mostly about whether or not we're going to put it online. I don't think so. Well, I'll continue to stay on for another 4 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and stop